Okay, so a lot is going on in the world right now. I've had the privilege of just now figuring it out, as a lot of people are, with the whole thing with Palestine going on right now. But I'm now realizing that this genocide for white supremacy capitalism has not only been a historical repetition, but that all of the things I learned in school being like covering that up and pretending that didn't exist and glorifying the people who were part of colonial violence and genocide and unspeakable horrors that's only the tip of the iceberg of everything going on right now. And so I just want to preface this by saying I do have no idea what I'm talking about. I've done some research since I started giving a shit, I could say, having because I have the privilege to where I could just not give a shit, or I've had the privilege up until this point to not give a shit and only be made aware of how fucked up I'm literally in the middle of it all through the Palestine thing. So I just want to say I don't know a lot of stuff. I've only just started researching, and I think the point of this video is the fact that I want to do more and put that conversation more out there. So if anybody joins and is in the chat, I'll probably be talking to them about it. But I wrote this little thing in my notes of just like I'm struggling to cope, not just cope, just the reality of like what's going on right now, to like just make sense of like the fact that like I'm going to work every day and the taxes that go to the government are being used to bond children. I see the videos on Instagram. I see little children with their bones sticking out, bleeding out, not able to get medical attention because they're sick. Being actively genocided, and it's pretty obvious what's going on if you just... But I'm just struggling to make sense that I'm sort of in the middle of that. I think part of what's going to bother me about this video is that I don't really know the system that we're sort of all in with all like the governments and stuff was a lot built on colonialism and therefore genocide, and especially if indigenous people and African people and that's just what all the systems are sort of built on. Not all of them, but most of the big systems, especially like the corporate capitalism sort of thing that this is starting to turn into with the late stage of capitalism, but it is starting to turn into like where corporations and the capitalism thing, like agenda, are becoming very closely tied. Which of course that's just what would happen. That's just how the system would work. Like it's a faulty system. It's gonna not work on itself, but all of it is sort of been funding on this genocide. So I'm sitting here and I'm like, you should just take the whole system down, but there's things like how we're all sort of already intricately connected as nations and as individuals through the systems we've set up that we can't really, just take it all down. So what I'm struggling with here is more like, can we change a system that was built on literal murder, rape, pillaging, like subjugation and dehumanization? Like, can we take that system and change it to make it something better? And that's what people have been trying to do for centuries and have been slowly making an effort. Or is it just doomed? And like, that's the thing, is like, if you just sit there and you're like, it's doomed, then you might as well just not give a shit and just give in to not giving a shit and just do nothing and give into consumerism, whatever. But that doesn't really feel right, you know. Obviously, believing in God or whatever, since I did start believing in God this year, and not even believing in God, but just if it's you, you don't. If it was you there in the war zone right now, like literally where people are like being genocided, you'd want people to like give a shit, even if it feels like it is futile. So I do believe that you have to like believe that shit's gonna get better. You have to like sit there and like be like, a change can be done and can change me, because otherwise, why are you trying to change anything? Why do you even care? You have to believe that change can happen. And so that's why I'm here, because I want to talk about how can we sort of ground ourselves with that. What can we do? Because I'm sitting here with the genocide going on. I'm like, what the actual fuck do I do? Because I'm in the middle of it all. I'm in a house. I'm lucky I'm not one of those people out there on the streets, but I could be, because that's just the system I'm in. Like I'm in the middle of that system that is funding the ethnic cleansing going on right now. So that's what I'm having a crisis about. And I'm like, okay, change needs to be made. How can I best ground myself in that change? So this is what I wrote down, just so I can remember it later. And if anybody else needs to hear it, because Jesus Christ, it's a lot right now. And just talking about it, trying to sort it through is, what else can you do? Because I do believe that change can and does need to happen. And I do believe that the reason it isn't happening is because people are scared and ignorant, or they're causing the bad stuff itself. So just talking about it. So specifically for me, I figured the type of activism is just that I feel like I would be doing is that, well, and I guess anybody really, but we have a system. We can't necessarily just break it all down in one night. And we all have to sort of operate within that system. Like, if you don't operate within the system, you'll end up out in the streets. Like, it's sort of there. You can't escape it. And there are clear flaws with the system. Like, I saw that thing on John Oliver the other day about how the organ donor industry is so fucked up. Millions of people's organs are just rotting because nobody is like doing anything to like fix the system and make it more updated. And people are sitting there dying who need organ transplants, especially minorities, because the organ thing isn't getting changed. And that's just one little thing that I got off track on. But there's so many little things that are wrong, that are like flaws of the system. Racial injustice. I mean, obviously that doesn't change because the system was built on racial injustice. It was built on subjugating people, subjugating like making a profit. Being able to make a profit historically has only been able to be done with cheap labor, with slave labor. And so like when the system is was built off of that, that's still going to be an issue. Like it's never not going to be an issue. And that's calling back to the beginning of like, well, it's just a fucked up system. We just need to change the whole system. But it's like, you can't tear it down. You have to change it from within, which is kind of hard to do. I get a little bit confused about it because I'm like, can't you just change it? So maybe it's a spiritual thing. I don't know. But pointing out the flaws and logical fallacies is sort of how you pinpoint what's wrong, not only for yourself when you're like confused about just like everything that's going on, because there's so much wrong, but when talking to other people who don't understand, and especially when you're just trying to spread awareness and somebody challenges you. And that's why doing research is so important. That's what I need to start doing, more research. So know what the fuck I'm talking about. I'm not just sitting here like spouting stuff, not knowing what I'm talking about. But knowing the flaws of the system and pointing out the logical fallacies can help you when explaining it to somebody else or when explaining to yourself what needs to change and, you know, where the issues come up. Because there's clear issues with the system. I mean, I don't need to get into how profit, it's not a sustainable system. Like capitalism, it's just not sustainable. And that's why it needs to be talked about. It needs to be changed right now, because it's just gonna, like, the earth is just gonna die because nobody's doing anything about it. And I know I've seen all this stuff about how rich people are already preparing for the end of days, and poor people are just gonna have to go fuck themselves and just get over it and die with everybody else. But with the time we still have, I believe a change can be made. And just by, I guess, talking about what's wrong, obviously the system itself is wrong. Even me trying to like sit here and talk about it, it's so confusing because the system itself is wrong. It was built on genocide and ethnic cleansing, dehumanization, subjugation. But it's been built up so much now that it's become an intricate part of everything, like technology and everything. And it's just, I'm gonna go off on a little side here because it feels like it's changing so fast and so exponentially, the same way that technology has changed so fastly, exponentially the past 10, 20 years. It feels like things that are going right now are going even faster. So just talk about it while you still can. I mean, like, I don't see any point in not doing anything while the earth is still alive and running and while we still have a chance. Oh, sorry if I keep getting confusing and talking back in on myself, because I'm having trouble with this. It's so much to wrap my head around. So the shit's fucked up. The system's fucked up. It's fucked up. And there are clear flaws in the system of why it's fucked up. Like, it was built on fucked upness. And that can't be changed. Sorry, I am still trying to sort through this here. So, like, you can't take down the system. You have to, like, change it while still in it, because it's like you can't just take down how it connects everything and everybody with technology and stuff. Like, you have to change it from within it. It is built on fucked up shit. Like, it's rooted in fucked up shit, and that's what's wrong with it. It's an inherently wrong system. So how can you change it for better? Well, obviously there's a system to how things should work, and that makes sense. I don't know, maybe it does need to just be taken back. No, you can't strip it all down, because it wouldn't work. I mean, we could just regress and go back, but then we probably also couldn't, because all of the stuff we've created built around our system would still exist. Hospitals, technology, files, everything. So let's just continue this video saying that the system is rooted in fucked upness. It is an inherently bad system, but it can be changed. I mean, I believe it can be changed and it should be changed. I believe it has been changed little by little over the centuries of people trying to people trying to advocate for that change and make that change happen. So no, it's not futile. So yeah, I guess we'll keep going with this. Sorry if you're still here, bear with me, because I'm trying to figure this shit out. But going from there, yes, it can be changed. People who are empowered to change are people in government positions and corporate positions, obviously, people in power. But at the same time, those corporate machines sort of rely on consumers, and governments rely on, the people that they rule over to a certain degree. And even though, like, traditionally, voting doesn't do a lot of work with the two-party system already set up, I don't necessarily mean things like voting. Activism or action, taking action can take any sort of form. Creatively is very, very good and very helpful. Really just whatever spreads awareness the most. So if you can use the system to your advantage in some way that you know how, then use the system to your advantage. Because, like, if you're already stuck within the system, there's no point in not using it to your advantage to change it how you know it needs to be changed, with the flaws that are like, obviously this isn't going to work. And a lot of people are just ignorant or fearful. Like, they just don't believe that it can actually be changed, and that's what's holding them back. So don't let yourself be changed by their doubt, because then it's just stuck that way. But you have to actually change by believing it can work. Every action you take, like, it runs both ways. Like, every action you take does have a significance. And, there are different ways to do activism, and you can research it online, but there's, you can do it creatively. You can go out and speak, graffiti, things like that, talking to other people about it, bringing the conversation up using social media, and it's hard for me to find ways to describe it because each person has their own specific situation. Each person has their own means of talking to other people. Each person has their own platforms. So it's really, each person has their own, like, creative outlets. So it's really specific to you how you might share that energy out there. But really just, like, expressing it any way you can, like, don't hold it back within yourself. Express it. Ground yourself and meditate in the awareness of where the problems that need fixing, that cause the structural issues. Grounding yourself on what problems that need fixing that cause the structural issues. Fuck. No, I'm getting back into it again because the structural issue is the structure itself. I'm sorry. The structural issue is the structure itself, but it can't be taken down. Because we're already an intricate part of it. But it can be changed because this genocide is not okay, but it's built on genocide. It's built on genocide. So wouldn't it just keep doing genocide? Like, it can't be changed. Well, it has to be changed because how the fuck else, like, then we're just stuck here and there's nothing left to do. God, this is fucking confusing. It needs to be changed. Like, change needs to happen. I can't make it. I can't get any further. Like, I can't. There's so many things wrong. Not just people literally sitting there dying, being, like, genocided right now. People dying of starvation, dehydration, of not getting medical medical attention, literal children dying right now as we speak, being genocided, and have been for the past like 3 months. Not just that, but like everything. There's so much wrong. Like the fact that I can just brush over that and be like, oh, and everything else too, like it needs to stop. Like there needs to be a change. Like it can't just be like this. And maybe that's just what it is. Maybe just like it needs to change because the structure itself is an issue. And maybe that's what it is. Maybe, I'm sorry if I'm confusing you. Maybe this is something you decide on yourself, whether to try to change the structure from within, or if the structure itself is just bad. Well, obviously the structure itself is bad. It was built on genocide, but I don't know if it can be changed because we're already so intricately woven into it. But it's built on genocide, so like we would need to strip it down and make one that's not built on genocide. But I'm sorry. But there needs to be a change of some sort. There can't not be a change. Historically, this has been going on and over again, but we're still in the same spot. And all of it's like, it can't just be normalized like all those people's deaths that matter, like COVID's been normalized. And maybe that's just what it is, just like there needs to be a change. There has to be change. Talking about it and like getting on here and talking about it, or just talking about it with other people, doesn't matter. Just not stopping the energy of like thinking about it. Continuous force and pressure of like meditating on that, or just grounding yourself in that, because maybe that's just where we've gotten to that point of like there needs to be a change, and maybe then you'll find the action. Or maybe it just needs to be that, like it just needs to be that, and we just focus on that and make everything about that. Because otherwise it's just nothing. It's just, you're just letting it happen, and I can't just sit by and just pretend this isn't all fucked up. Like this is all fucked up. And I'm sitting here, I'm being pretty fucking vulnerable, just like I have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about. Like this is just what's going on. This is how I'm processing it. And let me just try and be logical again. From this point, from where we are right now, we change what we can. We do need to just stay grounded in that there needs to be a change. Do not give up hope about this. Do not give up hope about that. Because otherwise it's just whatever, like children are dying right now, who cares? No, don't give up hope about this, because like that's you, that's your children, that's your ancestors. And okay, I'm gonna move on to what else I wrote about it. Calling to awareness myself and my own mindset. What positions of power and privilege do I have in my life? What do I have that I can, what platforms do I have? Like what people am I able to talk to? What time and money do I have? Well, I can do a lot more, activism without risking getting jail time as much as having a risk anyway as other minorities would. So that's something that I would need to have to do, because I do have the white privilege of just not being targeted when I am trying to go out and put activism. So that's one thing. I do have creative platforms which I could be using to just be creative about these kinds of issues which I'm concerned about. I have money in which I could be, and I have been using money to fund other people who are doing activism as I am. I have lots of time on my hands to be doing research and doing the research and then talking about it, spreading awareness on it. So what fears and thoughts and patterns and prior belief systems do I have that stop me from challenging myself to act? Well, I only just started caring about this stuff. I mean, I think that's pretty fucked up of me that, like, I had the privilege to just not even know or care. Like, ignorance is bliss, right? That we're in the middle of this such fucked up system. Like, I can see how so many people would rather just pretend it's not happening and give in to distractions because it's right there. Like, it's happening right now all around us. And I think that's part of what's stopping me, is me just having been stuck in that ignorant mindset. I think another thing is just that part of me doesn't believe that an actual change will happen. Like, I'm sitting, I'm like, you have to believe that. Like, I have to believe that a change will happen. But another part of me is scared that, like, it's always been this way, or it doesn't matter. The Earth's just gonna die anyway. Everyone's been dying. Nobody's been doing anything about it. But it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter. And I'm trying to get over that, or that the fear that other people won't know or care, that it doesn't matter. But, like, my actions do actually matter, because, like, even if people are acting like they don't care or pretending that nothing's happening, like, that's because of their own ignorance. That's because of their own ignorance and their own perceptions. Like, there's no reason for me to be acting like nothing's happening when I know for sure shit's fucking happening. And part of it's maybe, like, with capitalism, I bet. Like, you can just give back into distractions and the consumerism of media, or whatever it may be, just consummation, to these corporate machines that are funding the genocide. Like, it's kind of fucked up that it's kind of like, if you're just giving into distractions, I mean, it makes sense, but if you're just giving distractions, you're just letting it happen. You're funding the genocide. And I know that Palestine's not the only one suffering right now. Like, Congo and Sudan, like, it's all kind of connected. Like, it's all what other fears and thoughts, patterns, prior belief systems have. It's like that fear that it doesn't matter, but every action does matter. Every action does matter. Or, like, the earth's just gonna die. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I'd rather have fucking tried than not do anything at all. Am I using all of the tools of unique power and privilege that I have at my disposal? That's another question to ask. For me, answering that, no, I'm not. I would rather just give in to distractions, but I think that's because I'm so scared that nothing's gonna happen, that no change is gonna happen. And I think that's also because I've had the privilege for so long of just getting sucked into distractions that I didn't realize were distracting me from this very fucking predicament, and that it's kind of a habit that I'm gonna have to break myself out of. And not only that, but I'm gonna have to, like, face my own selfishness, because I need to care about these things, like, rather than these fucking trivial stuff that doesn't matter. And that's not to take away from everything I'm doing. That's not to take away from all my interests, but it's like, what matters more? What matters to me more? Like, these interests or these people dying, like the very system being fucked up, and the world being fucked up right now, and needing to talk about it, needing to share our awareness about it. I feel like I've taken some steps towards action. I've taken some actions, but I definitely need to be doing more. Like, I need to be believing that it's, the more I believe that it will change, the more I need to do, like, because it's like, it matters so much. If I'm not using these tools of unique power and privilege that I have specifically for my situation, why? Why am I not using them? Well, because of that fear that it's not actually going to change anything, because of my own selfishness and my own prior attachments to consumerism and consummation, and my selfishness that I would just get dragged back into those distractions rather than caring about literal children dying, subjugation, people being like enslaved, like having to live through that life daily, not having food, water, having to fucking slave away for that. Like, that's not okay. That shouldn't be happening. Nobody should be having to worry about that. And the fact that I have the privilege to be sitting here like thinking about this like this, I'm extremely lucky. And that's why I need to be able to face my selfishness, because that's going to be a huge part of it. Like, do I care about myself and my own comfort more than getting outside of my comfort zone to stand up for the people that are literally being preyed upon right now, that like consumerism, capitalism is literally standing on crushing and killing and taking the life force from, dehumanizing, like taking everything? Are the reasons why not more important than the reasons I'm trying to get past that barrier? No, my selfish is not more important. No, my need for comfort is not more important. And I believe that, but it's one thing to say that then to actually do the actions. Like, part of me recording this is to take myself, hold accountability of like, this is how dire this has become. This is how scattered I've become because of this. I can't just fall back into distractions to try and pretend like nothing's wrong. Because I have the privilege to do so, things are really fucking wrong, and I wouldn't want to be one of those people halfway across the world right now, in the middle of it, with no position of power to get any change done. I need to be using the position of power I have now to get change done, so that maybe I can help those other people. And not only that, but maybe sometime in the future when I'm the one who has to face that shit, like, because you never fucking know, because I might just be homeless in the next fucking 2 or 3 years because of the way the fucking economy is. Like, just because I might have the privilege now doesn't mean the system favors anybody who doesn't have like money. And I do have white privilege, but I only have so much money privilege that I have the privilege to be sitting here talking about this right now. Things are only getting more crazy, and I need to realize just how intricately like just because I have like the power of having these walls around me to like of comfort that everything's fine. Everything's not actually fine, because for everybody else it's not fine. And if everybody else is not fine, then I'm not fine. Like, that's just how it has to be. If everybody else is not, if somebody across the world is being like enslaved and subjugated and dehumanized for the purpose of white supremacy, colonial, corporate bullshit, it's never going to be okay. It's never going to be okay. And I do believe there's an inherent duality to everything. I do believe there's a light and dark to everything, but this isn't it. This doesn't, just because this is it right now, it doesn't mean this is the way things need to be. Things can change. Things can change. This is not the way things are supposed to be. So no, there's the selfishness, whatever, it's not more important. Am I doubting the significance of my actions on others in the world? Yes, because I feel like it's futile. Like, I do still keep feeling like it's futile and it doesn't matter, but I know that's just going to get me pulled back into a hole of like, oh well, might as well just give in to distractions then and be funding genocide while people out there are dying. Those people could be you. Those could be your children, but who cares anyway, because it doesn't matter, the Earth's going to die. Like, no. Am I letting myself believe that it's futile? Yes, and that's a bad thing. I need to stop. I have to believe things can change. I know I'm sitting here like, well, the system's fucked up. It's inherently fucked up. What are we supposed to do? What can we do? But it needs to change. It needs to change. Am I forgetting why it is so important to continue to believe that things can and will change rather than the alternative of giving up and letting things be as they are if I'm not satisfied with the way things are? No, I'm not forgetting, because I'm sitting here talking about it right now. I keep repeating it over and over again. And I am struggling with this. Okay, like, maybe this could just be the ways of the world. But if so, then it's fucked up. It needs to change. Like, I'm not just gonna sit here and like be like, this is okay, this is fine. It's not fine. Everybody's not okay. And that's not other people's fault. That's not because of their own, actions. Like, people are being literally subjugated and forced into positions that they don't want. Like, people's free will is being infringed upon. And that's what's wrong. Like, that's where it's not okay. So, wrapping up everything I just said, calling into awareness what is my relationship to the action that I want seen in the world, and what is the blockage between that. And I pretty much just talked about it in everything I tried to explain just now, but it's so hard to explain. Hi, Wallace. If you want to jump in and say your piece, go ahead. Like, I'm just trying to make sense of it all right now. And if none of those things are holding me back, because, like, this is just me. If you're hearing this and you're having your own experience and you're like, yeah, but I'm doing a little bit better than you, white girl. Like, I think I know a little bit better than you. If none of those things are holding me back, am I trusting the process? Am I trusting myself that these things I believe are wrong and that shouldn't be happening, that I'm doing the right thing, that I am doing the right thing, that it's not okay? Like, speak out about it. Like, it's not okay. Like, make the change. Like, am I trusting the process? Or am I just being like, oh no, nothing's gonna happen? Am I letting go, meditating on what I've done or what I plan to do, believing my plans will come into fruition? Because it's so important, is believing that it will come into fruition. Because if you don't, then, like, there's no point in any of it, and you might as well just give in to the capitalism monster. You might as well just suck his little dick. Like, I'm sorry, but you have to believe that and trust that process, because you are doing it. And I know it can be so hard because it literally does feel futile. It does feel futile. It does feel futile. But you have to believe that it can be changed, because it's that level of stakes. Like, it literally feels like it's not going to change, but you have to believe, because it's that level of stakes. Making sure that I know that I'm keeping that focus, that I'm not getting scattered by all of the fucking millions of there's so many problems, there's so many issues with what's going on right now, that I'm not getting scattered by it, and I'm keeping grounded in what I know it is the change that I want to be enacted, what I know that needs to change in the world, and why those things need to change, why it is so important. Keeping myself grounded in that. Because it's okay, like, it's okay, it is going to change. You gotta take that action, but don't not believe. Like, don't not believe that don't believe that it can't change, because it can. Don't try to compare your journey with others. Only you are in the unique situation you're in right now. You cannot touch all bases at once. You must start from where you are now and use what you have. And focus on what is either most important to you or most accessible to you in terms of taking action, what you can do, what you want to be done. If there's something you have to offer, do it. If you are, whatever your skills are, if there's something you have to offer, use that. No matter what that talent may be. Don't let it go to waste, because that can be used as part of that expression, trying to get it out there, trying to get that, like, there needs to be change, there can be change. There needs to be, and there can and will be a change. If you can't find a way to get it out there, make finding a way your priority. Try multiple options, try different ways. Don't be like, oh, I just can't find a way. Don't start thinking like that. Don't start thinking like that. Don't start thinking like that. Don't start thinking like it's futile. Don't do it. Because first of all, you're just giving in to the consumerism. You're just like, oh well, genocide, children dying, oh well. But second of all, like, it will happen. Like, don't think like that, because it will happen. Don't think like that. think good thoughts, bro, but like actually though, like actually this time, like actually though, go with whatever works for you. Go with your intuition, go with the flow. Don't try and expect more from yourself. Don't go chasing waterfalls. Don't go chasing waterfalls. Just stick to the rivers and the lakes you're used to. Start where you are, use what you have. Don't try and go beyond your own britches. Whatever works for you the best and gets you the most audience, gets you the most awareness, is putting the most message out there, because that's what you're trying to do, is get it out there. Let other people know that they'd be okay. Let other people who are in their ignorance be challenged, that have their ignorance challenged, have their fears challenged. Only you can do what you can from your position. Grounding yourself is important, because it's easy to get scattered, not only by all this information I'm trying to say right now, but the millions of problems and issues that constantly need to be fixing. It's so easy to get scattered with everything changing right now. It's best to focus on one thing at a time, especially when it comes to activism itself, taking an action, how you're going to take that action, through what route, whether using your platform creatively, whatever it may be where you're trying to do it, focusing on that. Simply that. Grounding yourself on that. How and what and why. And keeping your focus on one thing at a time and sticking to it, rather than flying from one thing to the next. Stick to that one thing. And if that, you can stay with that one thing forever, if that works for you, or one thing at a time, it may be that sort of situation for you, because everyone's situation is going to be different. But don't fly from one issue to the next. Don't let yourself get pulled in all these different directions, because then it's going to start to feel futile again. It's going to feel like, well, there's just too much wrong. There's just too much wrong. There's no way I could possibly get to all of it. You have your own unique experience and your own skill set and your own things to offer the world. And you have your own peace of mind and understanding of the world that you can offer. So maybe try and figure out from there what you can focus on that is most aligns with what the kind of change you want to see in the world. Or if there's so many changes you can't decide, just pick one, bro, and stick with it. But try not to fly to a bunch of different stuff, because it will make you feel like it's futile. And grounding yourself on one thing can sort of start to grow roots in something that it'll feel like you're actually building something. And always remember not to fear your enemy. Do not fear your enemy. Do not fear the ops, the supposed ops. Like, make sure in your mind, and this is hard because this is a spiritual thing, this is a situational thing. Do not fear your enemy, which caused your own ignorance. Remember that their self-determined knowledge from their own perceptions and their own worldview, from the life that they have lived, if they are supporting those things that you know are wrong in the world, you've done your research, you know is wrong, you then know that their self-determined knowledge is rooted in fallacy. It's rooted on unstable foundations. So you don't have to worry about that. Just because that person doesn't realize that they're wrong doesn't mean it isn't true. Just because they might be doing everything, doing the absolute most, thinking that they're right, it doesn't mean it's true. And you can't force them to realize. You can't force them to realize it's right. Now, that might be what your way is of trying to like change the world, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I'm not saying that's not a way that can also be done, but I'm just saying don't forget that you can't always force them to realize. You have to be patient. You have to just stay grounded in what you know is right, knowing that they're wrong, because if they're rooted in that bad stuff, they're always going to be wrong. It doesn't matter what kind of argument they're trying to have. Don't let them try to get a reaction of you just because you believe differently and they're like upset about it, because it's you're challenging those belief systems and that they subconsciously know are wrong but don't realize it. So they might be challenging you and be like trying to get a reaction of you. Stay patient. Remember why. Like, trust yourself and remember why you trust yourself. Also remember why that this person is so attached to their ignorance and to like that. Like they're attached to that. You can't change. You can only trust yourself in what you realize is the truth about what is wrong. Remember, it is them learning from you. Don't let their doubt try to fool you otherwise. It is them learning from you. All you're learning from them is how deeply rooted ignorance can go and what problematic actions can cause. Do not fear them because it is their ignorance that is putting them in that. It is their ignorance that makes them that way. You know the truth, therefore you don't have to be shaken by their doubt. You have to be shaken by their beliefs because you know the truth of what that's a fallacy. That's unstable. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. So don't let it get to you. You know what I'm saying? I will end this by saying it's all magic. It's a spiritual battle. Like, I'm sitting here, I can barely make sense of it. But what I will say is that I do believe a change can happen. I do believe it needs to happen. It needs to happen. It really needs to happen. And it will happen. Not only because I believe in God and started believing in God this year, but because I'm a human with basic empathy. And I believe. I don't know if y'all believe in magic who are watching. You could not believe. But manifestation, it's like those thoughts. You can't think the bad thoughts. They will happen. You have to believe a change will happen. And that's why it's magic. That's what we got. Like, you have to believe. Being able to believe in what you know is right, that's magic. Being able to keep believing when you know the truth, root yourself in that. Because it is magic. See it as happening. Continue to see it over and over and over. Rhythm, simplicity, repetition. Continue to see it over and over and over. Keep it simple. Don't let your thoughts stray by trying to make it too complex or make too much sense of it. Keep it simple on the truth you know is right. Ground yourself and keep to those roots. Strengthen your belief in affirmations like a muscle. It will happen. It can change. It can and will. It does need to change. And the thing is, like, you have to keep repeating and facing and conquering that same doubt every single day. You will meet other people in your life who will challenge that within you. You have to remember why it's so important, because you have to continue facing and conquering that doubt every day. But I hope this helped y'all. It helped me a little, because I was able to just sit here and air out the paradox that I'm feeling, and just, at the end of the day, I just have to believe. Like, I just have to believe that it can and will change, and that it needs to change. It needs to change. But it's very hard at times right now. So if any of y'all want to comment and talk about this later, I'm totally down to, like, reply and talk about in the comments. I might do another live about this, but that's it for now. Bye, Wallace. Hi from hello Brazil. Hello. I'm sure things aren't doing much better there than they are here in the US right now with everything going on right now. Jesus. But have a good one, okay?